All right, we are live. Share my screen. Okay. So my name is Mark Rounds. This is my my information, my email, my Twitter handle, and my YouTube channel. So you now have the address for this presentation, and you can access these. The YouTube and the Twitter are links, so you can click on it and go to it and find this session there. That we already did. Okay, so we're ready to get chromed. That was underwhelming. Y'all understand I have 2 hours of sleep, right? I almost hit a javelina. So even if you're not ready, just humor me. Okay, so one of the best things about Google Chrome is that it's something that you can sign into. Okay, and signing into Chrome allows you to sync all of your Chrome features across devices. So let's say I was using somebody else's computer. If I signed in as myself to their Chrome browser, it would bring over my extensions, my apps, my bookmarks. Everything would get basically autofill everything into the Chrome browser that I'm using on any computer. Okay, and the process of signing, I mean, all you need is a Google account. You all have Google accounts. The process of actually signing in happens up at in the top menu bar where it says people. And you can see I'm signed in as 2 different people. And then I don't know who person 2 is here, but if I just add a person, I can sign into Chrome. This isn't signing into your Google account. This isn't signing into your Gmail. This is signing into the browser itself. So that when you sign in, see, this is kind of raw Chrome right here. You can see there's no bookmarks. It's basically featureless. It'll still work, you know. I can still go to a web page, right? But it doesn't remember any of my passwords. Doesn't remember me. Doesn't know me. This is just a clean slate of a web browser. If I sign into it, then it will start to autofill all of the features that I use. And so let me give you an example of that, in that I am signed into Chrome browser as 2 different people. I'm signed into it in my personal account, which is my email, mrounds5@gmail.com. And I'm also signed into it under my Google Apps for Education account for my school, which is mrounds@sdjccs.net. So they're 2 different personas, okay? But when I go to Gmail under this person, it brings up my work email. And when I go to Gmail under this persona, it's my personal email. Okay, so using Chrome, if you're using, and since you are a Google Apps for Education district, you are going to be using your school email, but you also might be using your personal account as well. And so that gives you the opportunity to just kind of jump back and forth between the 2 in the same browser. Does that make sense? So you can truly be kind of technologically schizophrenic in Chrome. I can, you know, so I have also, and, you know, so I teach at a university named Azusa Pacific University. So I could also sign in here. Under that persona, and so now I'm just stacking personalities now, right? And I can jump from my personal to my day job to my night job. So if you have multiple Google accounts, you can kind of jump back and forth. But signing into that Chrome browser personalizes the browser in whatever way you have it personalized. So one of the things we're going to talk about are Google extensions, if we get there. And so I have a bunch of extensions that do a lot of different things, and we'll talk about a couple of them. And if I were to sign into my Google account on another computer, I would want these same features because I use them. And you know, the bookmarks that I have here are sites that I go to and I use. And so in signing in to the Google Chrome browser with my information on someone else's computer, it'll take a little time because I have a lot of stuff here, but it'll fill in all these things for me. Okay, so the Google Chrome browser you can personalize it, and then it can emulate it on the fly if you sign into the browser itself. So there's a lot of value to that. Are there any questions? I'm gonna just kind of stop. This is one way that I'm differentiating for you know, after looking at that little formative assessment, is I will stop frequently and ask if there are any questions. And if you legitimately have a question, legitimately ask it. Okay, don't because if you're thinking about it, somebody else is as well. Okay, so signing in is awesome. We have we copy and paste, yeah. We're all talented copiers and pasters, right? Okay. If you can copy and paste, so some of these tidbits I'm going to give you are awesome time savers in that they save you maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 seconds. But just kind of cool, right? It's cool that Google's thinking. So let's say that I am on a oh boy, there he is, our buddy. Okay, so let's say that I wanted to do a quick Google search on something that I see in my on a web page. So in this case, there's something here in quotes that says "draw the profit." I don't even know what that is, but if I copy it and then bring it up to so this is kind of nerdy. This is kind of nerdy, next level weirdness. But in Google, in the Google Chrome browser, they call this, what do we usually call this bar up here where we put the web address into? Kind of the address bar or something. They call it the Omni Bar. Omni, you know, it's like does everything. And we'll kind of see how it does everything. If I come in here and I right click here, you can see here that I have paste and search as an option. Let me do that again. You can see that of my options here, one of them is paste and search. It saves me the 2 seconds it would take for me to paste it and then hit my button there, but paste and search. And so it knows the difference though between that and this. So if I went to www.facebook.com, I'm going to go ahead and copy that as well. And now look what happens when I paste it up here. Not paste and search, but paste and go. So it knows the difference between something that's a website and not a website. Anyhow, like I said, nerdy ways to save 3 or 4 seconds here and there. When you rank them all up, though, they wind up being quite a bit of time, right? So paste and go, paste and search is a sweet little function. Pinning tabs is something that I do often. If you have tabs that you go to all the time, we know what tabs are, yes? So the tabs are these little guys up here. I've got tabbed browsing. Okay, so I can have multiple tabs open in the same window. So that's the difference here. This whole thing right here is a window, and these are tabs. So I have one with my email, one for the schedule for our summit here, one for a session I'm doing later, one for my Google Drive. So I have all my tabs up here. If I have a tab like my Gmail tab that I use all the time and will never, you know, while I'm browsing, I will never ever X out that tab. I can right click and pin it. And what it'll do is it'll shorten it, it'll make it smaller, and it'll leave it right here on my far left-hand side, and it'll always be there. It'll be pinned there. So let's say I want to do that with my Drive too. I know that I'm going to be using my Google Drive. I don't want to have to search for it in all of my tabs. I don't know about you, but sometimes I get 30 tabs open on my, every time you do a search, it opens a new tab, You get a lot of tabs, but if I don't want to have to search, dig and hunt for that Drive tab, I can pin that one as well. And as you can see, it just shoots it right over there to that left-hand side. How do you think I unpin it if I want to? Right click and unpin. With most software, and Chrome browser is just it's another piece of software. When in doubt, right click. Just see what happens. Just see what comes up in the menu, and a lot of times you can find some neat things by right clicking. You can't break the internet, at least not by right clicking. Okay, so pinning tabs is an awesome tool to have in your arsenal. Okay, we're going to get into the Omni Bar. Why in Google Chrome they call it an Omni Bar. One reason it's called the Omni Bar is because you can do just kind of simple calculations and conversions just in the Omni Bar alone. So if I come up to just an open window, and I type in 345, and I put my slash, and I do 45, it will just very quickly give me the answer. So I can do just quick calculations. Okay, I'm dividing 345 by 45, and it gives me the answer right here. Okay, and so that's just just super quick. Anytime I need a calculator, this is what I use. And it doesn't work with everything, but if I type in something like 33 miles, it'll convert it to kilometers for me, just kind of instantly. There in the Omni Bar in the drop. So if you're looking for calculation conversions, you can't put in theorems, and you can't. I'm an English teacher, not a math teacher, so I'm going to say theorems like I know what I'm talking about, but I just couldn't even. It sounds like theory, but you're not going to do any complex mathematics in here, but you can do simple, just kind of quick, simple mathematics in here. Okay, it kind of takes the place of your 10-key calculator, which is pretty cool, right? Like, how cool is Chrome? It's that cool. And so let's say I wanted to go a little deeper. Google itself in the Chrome browser has a conversion calculator. So let's say I wanted to look at 33 miles, and I do 2 kilometers. And we already know that if you have experience with the Chrome browser, you know that it will kind of start autofilling for you, right? So I see here 33 miles, and I want to say 2, and it just autofills km to kilometers. And if I started typing out kilometers, it'll give me all these great suggestions, right? And so if I type something like that in my Omni Bar, it'll give me the search results just like anything else, but it'll also default to dropping in this conversion calculator up top. And the neat thing about this conversion calculator is this: it not only has look at all the things that it'll convert for you. Okay, so let's say I wanted to go temperature, and I wanted to know, okay, if it's what is it today, like 82 degrees. 82 degrees Fahrenheit is 27 degrees Celsius, and I can even find out what that is in Kelvin. So not only can I switch it up here, 1 pound is 16 ounces, I can also play around with these drop menus here, and I can go from micrograms to pounds, and really start looking at ways, a lot of different conversions. I can even go to data storage and know that 1 byte equals 1,000th of a kilobyte. And what exactly is a gigabyte, and how does it relate to a megabyte? And I know that, that one, not a megabit, I want a megabyte. There we are. Okay. I know that 1 megabyte, 1 MB is 1/1000th of a gigabyte. And then my mind really starts blowing up when I think, okay, so the computer I had in college, it was, so when I was young, I was hiking with a day camp and there was a landslide and my skull was crushed by a rock. So when I turned 18, I had an annuity, I had money, basically. And so having money, the two things that I bought in 1986 were a car, El Camino, and an Apple computer. And the Apple computer was this one. Oh, it wasn't the Apple, it was Macintosh. Okay. Looked a little something like that. And this thing was awesome. It was the first computer with a mouse, right? Before then, computers was just all typing. You didn't have mice, and it was awesome. It was fantastic. Played games on it, wrote my papers on it. I still have this in my classroom. Sits up there in my I have like a Mac museum. Okay, and it still sits up there in my classroom. And this computer had 1 megabyte of internal memory, 1 MB. Right, so you might right now have in your pocket a flash drive that weighs like a couple ounces that has 16 or 32 or 64 gigabytes of internal memory. You know what I mean? It's like it's wild to think, you know, not that it was a short while ago, it was 30 years ago, that, you know, that this is kind of where we are. But these are the kind of discussions we can have, right? Just by looking at a simple conversion calculator. And I'll point to that computer up on my shelf and say, students, you know, this flash drive has, you know, 16 to the power of 20 the memory of that thing up there that used to run my life. So it's that conversion calculator. It's pretty neat, pretty handy if you're needing it. Google Timer. Use this in class all the time. One of my weaknesses is time management, especially when I've got, you know, something really cool for students to do, which I kind of try and do all the time. What usually bites me in the butt is cleanup, because in my classroom we make a mess. I have saws and drills and robots and Legos and all kinds of stuff in my room, and it's a mess. It can be a mess. And so with 2 minutes left in the period, I start yelling at kids to clean up, and what winds up happening is I stay after school for an hour and I'm cleaning up all their garbage because they have to just go to the next class, right? So using a Google Timer is fantastic. I can just, if I wanted to, I could say set a timer, and it defaults to 5 minutes. But if I wanted to click this little, what looks like a little speaker, oh no, it won't work like that. Little microphone up here, that little colorful microphone. You guys all know you can talk to Google, right? So I can say, set a timer for 20 minutes. No. Set a timer for 20 minutes. Even better than that, I can say, so that I know when we need to stop. Let's see. It is 10:24 now. Set a timer for 11 o'clock. It'll default to the closest time. If I said PM, then it would. But see what it did here, you can see, is that I said set it for 11 o'clock, and it counted to it. So I didn't need to backtrack the math in my head, which for me is just such a struggle. I've got too many things in my brain, right? So if I say set a timer for 11 o'clock, it then sets it for 34 minutes and 42 seconds or whatever it is till 11 o'clock. And we're going to go ahead and leave that on so we know when we're done. Okay, I'm telling you, this function right here is the money right here for this session. Google Timer, it's the best, right?
Will your microphone hear you no matter what device you're on?
It depends. Like on if you have an Android phone, like you can set it up for, so I can do the same thing here. I can say, and this is, I mean, this is just Google awesome, is I can say, okay, Google, remind me to take out the trash when I get home. Yes. So just save that reminder, and I will be reminded when I walk into my house by my phone to take out the trash. Why? Because Google tracks every step I take. It's a little creepy, big brothery, but you know what? In this day and age, you are tracked. And you know what? If you're not like in a sleeper cell and you're not making bombs in your basement, it's like, oh well, I'm not, I don't know. That's so believe me, they have all your information. You don't have to decide whether or not you give it to them. I mean, unless you're off the grid, they know who you are. But yeah, you can do any of that. As a matter of fact, Google even learns your habits. So every Sunday morning, my 17-year-old son and I, we go set up. Our church takes place at a middle school, so we have to set everything up. So we set up the kids area, and so when I wake up on Sunday morning, it'll tell me 14 minutes to Parkway Middle School. And now we've gotten into the habit of, after we set up, we go to Jamba Juice together. And so after a couple times of doing that, it'll say 14 minutes to Parkway Middle School, then 10 minutes to Jamba Juice. Like it just starts knowing this stuff. And if you get over the creepy factor of it, then you really start embracing it. Okay, now that I've skeeved you all out, you're like, I'm at Google training and I know all my stuff. Okay, so we get into tabs now, and these tabs are very pliable. We've already looked at how to pin them. You can also move them. So let's say that I was working. So I do this all the time when I'm working on, like in this case, so this presentation here. If I'm working on a presentation and I'm using, like a Google image search page to bring in images, I will take that search page and I will pull it out of line, and I will drag it down and put it in line right next to my presentation. So you can move those tabs around. And if you ever wanted to, like if your tabs get too overwhelming for you, you can always just pull it out and make it its own window. So those tabs, you can move them around. Okay, this is another one of those workflow things that you don't think about, but the amount of time, and I don't know about you, but honestly, just the few seconds here and there, over and over and over and over, they just save you a lot of time. They honestly do add up. And if I can just go boom, 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 back and forth, that is just as far as my productivity as a teacher, and my time is valuable. That is a lot quicker for me than it being all the way over here and I've got 30 tabs open and I'm searching for it. And then I go back and forth and I'm searching for it and I'm searching for it. And before I'm done putting together my presentation, I've searched for that tab 20 to 30 times at 10 seconds a pop, so it's frustration, it's all those things, right? So to be able to just kind of move a tab around really quickly, and you can see I can slide it. I don't have to pull it all the way down and pop it back up. I can just slide it back and forth up top. So those tabs, you can pull them around, yank them around, all that. You know what? This drag to search hasn't been working, so I'm going to skip over that one. Let me see. Yeah, it wasn't working, so. You know what we do with that? We say that slide, gone. Okay, we talked about your multiple personalities. We've talked about OK Google. So anytime you're on just the Google homepage, You can either click the little microphone. I think my computer's safe. Okay, Google. Nope, it's not. How many times did Joe DiMaggio win the batting title? Okay, and it'll, you can just do voice search, which is, again, just a little time saver. Okay, incognito browsing. So all web browsers, so if you're on a Mac, you have Safari, they have private browsing, and if you use Firefox, they have private browsing. In Google Chrome, they call it incognito mode. So if I click on the far right-hand side of my top menu, my top toolbar here, I have what, different people have different names for it. I call it a hamburger. It's like a bun with a burger in the middle. The 3 lines. That's kind of the universal symbol for more stuff. Okay? If I click on my hamburger and I scroll down, I can open up a new tab, a new window, or a new incognito window. Okay? Incognito windows are made to basically hide where you're going. So you open an incognito window, and anywhere you go is not traced in your history. It says, pages you view in incognito tabs won't stick around in your browser's history, cookie store, or search history after you've closed all of your incognito tabs. Any files you download or bookmarks you create will be kept. However, it says then, however, you aren't invisible. Going incognito doesn't hide your browsing from your employer, your internet service provider, or the websites you visit. But as far as the history in your browser, it doesn't track any of that stuff. So if you needed to sneak around and do some online shopping, didn't want anyone to find out, you'd open up an incognito window. I don't need to say what incognito is used for. It's all in our heads right now. But there's a great, fantastic educational use for your incognito tab, an incognito window. Many times a day, I have students that say, I can't get into this, I can't get into that, I can't print from my computer, I can't do this, I can't do that on my Google account. I will put them on my computer, open up an incognito tab, and have them go to Gmail and have them sign in to their Google account. Okay, you can sign in to your Google account because the incognito tab doesn't know what any of the other tabs are doing. So they can sign into their account, whereas if they would have went to Gmail on any of my other personalities, it would open up my Gmail. But in here, they can go to their Google Drive. And then once we close the tab, it's gone. They don't have to sign out. They don't have to do any of that stuff. I use it 5 times a day to have students open up their stuff and show me on my computer. Bring that up, If they have laptops, that's great. But if they're on a desktop and you've got, kids coming up to you or whatever it is, right? You can have or if it's not working on their computer, you want to try it out on your computer, that kind of thing. The functionality is huge. Okay, so those incognito windows work really well for using student for accessing student accounts. I just love that picture. Can't see what I'm doing, man. How many of you have closed a tab on accident and been really hating yourself? Okay, this is the other money slide right here in the presentation. If you close a tab on accident, like this one here, let's say that I'm presenting and I close that tab on accident, I'm like, oh darn. If I have a Mac, I hit Shift, Command, T, and it opens that tab right back up. On a PC, it's Shift, Control, T, and it opens that tab right back up. Okay, super handy. There's another one I use 5 times a day. Any questions about any of those cool Google features? Remember, they're all here. They're all pretty straightforward. Always trying to tie these features back into teacher-student productivity. You know what I mean? And so just the idea of and it's important as an educator that, I mean, I know we get people that aren't teachers that say, "God, I wish I could take the summer off," or "I wish that I only had to work till 3," and I wish, you know. Meanwhile, you're on your computer at home grading stuff, doing all. I mean, it's like we're glued into this, you know, for way more hours than we're actually on the clock. So those seconds and minutes, I feel, are precious. Okay, and if I can find ways, little, just, you know, even if it just makes me feel like I'm being more productive, you know, if it's like a placebo, it just, you know, it really is helpful. We're going to move now into extensions, and by far the majority of you don't even know what Google extensions are. Okay, I'm gonna use the next minute and a half as my own kind of personal session here to unburden myself. I have a problem, and I have an extension problem, in that I think I might be addicted. I even have an extension that'll show you how many extensions I have. I have all those extensions, and I cleaned them up the other day. So that's a truncated version of my extensions. This is an extension called Extensity, and it shows you all your extensions and allows you to turn them on and off from a list, which is really cool. But that's a little next level. But so up here in my menu bar, next to my Omni Bar, I have these little icons. If you're looking in your Chrome browser now, how many of you have icons like these on the right-hand side of your Omni Bar? Yeah, these are all extensions. And so these are extensions up here, and then because it would go off the page, if I click on my hamburger, these are all the rest of my extensions right here. So, you know, they all do something, and then I have a lot of other extensions that don't even have buttons. They're just in there doing stuff. So like when I open up a new tab, this page that has links on it, that has you know, kind of my visual bookmarks here, this is an extension. Okay, so that's how, you know, that's why my new tab button, my new tab tab looks different than yours. Okay, so let's take a trip into we're gonna go shopping. Cool thing about the shopping is that everything's free. Okay, stores where everything's free are awesome. So I'm gonna take you on a trip to the Chrome Web Store. Okay, and it's a pretty easy trip. Do you have on your bookmark bar that bookmark? I don't know if you can even see that. It says it looks like a Rubik's Cube, and it says apps next to it. Yeah. If you go ahead and click on that, it's on your bookmark bar, and it should be on the far left hand side. I'm sorry, it's mathematically not with it. So if you look up at the screen here. Right here up on the screen, it's in your bookmark bar, and it says it's a default bookmark to apps, and you should all have that app, the app that says Web Store. If you found it, look at your neighbor's computer, and if they haven't found it, help them find it. That's a tool I always use with my students to keep them all on task. If you have it done, look at your neighbor's computer. If they need help them do it, and that'll be like, get off YouTube, Johnny, or whatever. And when you click on that Web Store, it'll open up the Chrome Web Store. If you do not have that for whatever reason, you can just do a Google search in your Omni Bar for Chrome Web Store, and it'll take you to the same place. Everything in the Chrome Web Store is free. Okay, which is cool. We love free. Okay, I am a huge advocate of free. Where I want us to go in the Chrome Web Store, so I'm going to be like the guy that runs the elevator in those old department stores, and you know, for you see like a Twilight Zone or something, an episode from the 50s where it's like 5th floor hosiery and houseware. I'm going to take you down the elevator to extensions. So over here on the left-hand side, in the navigation bar on the left-hand side, I want you to go from apps to games to extensions, and click on extensions. So this is the Chrome Extension Store. And it has a lot of items in it. You can just scroll down and see how, they all look kind of pretty. They all, are very, colorful. But the cool thing about each of these is if you just scroll over them and don't click, it'll tell you basically what that extension does. So if I'm up here at the top and I look at Google Keep, I roll over that and it says save to Google Keep in a single click. Because I'm a Google nerd, I know that Google Keep is Google's Notes app. So that's where as a Google user, I keep all my notes. If you're an iPhone user, an iPad user, you probably use the Apple app Notes. If you're really into taking notes, you might use something like Notability or Evernote or something like that. But for Google Keep is it. And so what this Google Keep extension does is it will put a button. I'm sure I have it in here. Up there somewhere, doesn't matter. And if I'm on a page, a web page, okay, or I highlight some text on a web page and I click that Google Keep extension button, which would live up here, it will send it right to a note in Google Keep for me. So that's kind of the basic idea of how extensions work. And you want to talk about increasing your productivity. Extensions can really, really make you more productive. And so what I'd like to do is, go ahead and leave that Chrome Web Store open in a tab on your computer, in your browser. Is I want to show you a few extensions that I use and have really great implications for the classroom and really kind of help assist what you're doing in the classroom as a teacher. I know I'm not nice by using these extensions, but I swear by them. Adblock and Adblock for YouTube. And in the on the presentation, any one of these, the names of the extensions, when you click on them, they are links to the web store, so you can just download to your computer. Okay, so what Adblock does, it just takes all the ads off of your web pages. So one of the web pages that uses websites that just drives me crazy with their ads is Yahoo. I don't go to Yahoo much anymore, but Yahoo is always just full of ads on the side, ads everywhere. And now that I have Adblock Plus extension, I have 0 ads on this page. So all I have is content. I don't have to figure out the difference between an ad and content on a page, which can be frustrating, especially if you're on a page that has just a flat ton of ads. It can be extremely frustrating. So that's a great tool. The better tool for me, because I use YouTube all the time, especially in my classroom, is Adblock for YouTube. And by installing the Adblock for YouTube extension, it does a few things. It not only pulls the ads that would appear on the sides of your screen in YouTube, which are kind of irritating. It also completely kills the little ads that play before your videos, which, at their worst are like 15 to 30 seconds, and at their best make you watch 5 seconds, and then you can click the little link to. But if you have Adblock for YouTube, those ads never pop up, which rocks. Again, that's 5 to 30 seconds of my life that I don't need to know about, Propecia, or I don't need to know about, the cable company or whatever. I don't need to know any of that stuff. Okay, so Adblock is great. Okay, so and this can be a little bit of a I feel bad about it sometimes, because people who get a lot of views on YouTube, they get paid for those ads, for people watching those ads. Like, that's how they make money. And by having Adblock on there, they don't make money from you. But my time is worth more than their 2.5 cents or whatever they get for me watching that ad. So Adblock's a great one. And it's the kind of thing that runs in the background. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to click a button to make it work. You don't have to do any of that stuff. It just works, which is great. Yes?
If you add an extension to one of your profiles, one of the people you have, is it added to the other?
It's not. Great question. So if you look here, this is my personal, and I've got all these extensions. If I go to my work personality, I have much fewer, and they're much more directed. So this one I have share to Google Classroom, which doesn't work in my free range Google account, only in my Google Apps account. So I wouldn't have that on my other one. I do have it on this one. So yeah, you can change it up based on your profile. Google Translate. How many of you use Google Translate? It's just, it's just magic. It's like magic. Like, some of the things that Google does is just magic. In any case, what Google Translate allows you to do with the click of a button is to completely translate a web page and do one of, I don't know what they have now, 60 languages. So if I have this Google page here about Joe DiMaggio, and I go into my Google Translate extension, in this case, this is one that I have to enact. So if I click on it, and I click on the translate this page, it will say up here translated to English, but if I drop that menu down, it'll give me tons of different languages, right? So if I have one student that speaks Arabic in my classroom, I can translate a web page into Arabic. And I can't promise, because I don't read Arabic, that it is a completely faithful translation, but it's close enough that the student will understand it. And one of the awesome things about this Google Translate is it is constantly being updated by the community. And by the community, I mean us. The more translations the more people use Google Translate and make suggestions to translations, Google learns from people. Right? So if I'm a Spanish speaker and I look at something translated into Spanish, and I'm like, that's not right, right? I can look at this. So if I hover over this, it'll give me the original text, and it'll say, contribute a better translation. And believe me, people do this. People contribute better translations. And it's not the kind of thing where, like, if I walk in there and go blah, 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 and just put in nonsense, Google will go, oh, okay, we'll change it to that. It needs it in repetition. Enough people send in this exact same better translation, and it will adjust on the fly. It's pretty incredible. But I'm imagining that you guys do have a lot of English learners in your districts, yeah, in your schools. Yeah, I mean, I teach in San Diego. I teach, the school where I teach is 20 miles from the border, and we have in my school, which is a small school, it's a K-12 with we have 340 students, and we serve the homeless population in San Diego and South Bay, and we have 45% English learners at our school, and something like Google Translate for me, I learned Spanish in high school and college, so that I didn't actually learn it, right? I can butcher my way through a lot of it, and most of that comes from just communicating with my students. But this is a valuable tool for learning, and empowering students with this tool turns them from teacher I don't understand to they're translating stuff for themselves.
Read it out loud.
Well, I also have I also have an app, an extension called Announceify. It's a couple slides away, but we'll look at it now. Announceify, it's this little bird. And if I click on Announceify, you know what? I've never done this mashup of a translated page and Announceify. I think that's why it's having a, I think it's having a moment of a misunderstanding. Yeah, that mashup may not work. But if I get into my original page here and I use Announceify, because it's a search page, it might be kind of weird. I'm going to just bring up a news story. Okay, if I have a news story here, and go to Announceify. Sorry about that. That's weird. That is just the worst story for me to put up, but let's try it here.
You are now listening to This Is Why Jessica Simpson Decided Not to Get the Breast Reduction.
Okay, so if you look at the screen, you can see that it fades out what it's not reading and leaves sharp. It blurs out what it's not reading and leaves sharp what it is reading. Okay, so we're going to get off of that because that's kind of ridiculous. But so that Announceify extension will read a page. It's wonky computer voice, but the technology is there, and that will always just get better. So if students need things read to them, there are extensions that do that. We're going to jump over, clip it good. So Google Dictionary. Google Dictionary is another extension that just works in the background. So that if I have a page that I'm looking at and I need to define a word, all I have to do is double click on it and Google Dictionary will just give me the definition. And if I click on more, it'll actually open it up in a new window and I can get a deeper definition. Okay, but just double clicking on any word brings up the definition. Okay, so think about it. When you have students just reading through something online, they no longer have to be stuck when they hit a word, or know that they just bypass it and never really care about what that word means. They can just do a quick double click on it, and the Google Dictionary extension will just give them a quick definition. And if you look, so I double clicked on, in this case, something, right? Something that is unspecified or unknown. Well, I look at that definition. I don't know what unspecified means. I double click on that, and it works within itself. So there's another one you don't need to actually click a button to make work. This is Evernote Clearly. So how many of you heard of Evernote? Evernote is basically a note-taking app, but they created this extension that is so useful. Let me bring up a news story. There we go, from BBC, Russell Square, a stabbing. So I have this web page, and if I want students to read a news article on a web page, there is a lot going on. Any given web page, especially from news sites, very busy, right? So this is super busy. And what Clearly does, and Clearly it looks like the little Pixar lamp. If I click on the Clearly extension, it will give me a super scaled down, simplified version of that article, right? I mean, look at that. So much cleaner, so much easier for kids to read. Okay, and if you can change the font, the way it looks, you can change the size, right? So you can make it the font a lot bigger. And if you needed to, and I'm a proponent, and for 3 years now, I've run English classes, and I haven't made a photocopy in vain in 3 years. Okay, using Google Classroom and digitizing everything, everything I do is paperless now. But if you needed to print up something like this, there's a print button, and you could print up that article like this instead of printing it up as a web page, which is awful. Okay, so it's called Clearly, Evernote Clearly, and it's a fantastic extension. Like, all of my students have this extension on their profile, on their browser profiles. So whenever they sign into a Chromebook or sign into a browser using their Google account, Clearly is there, and and if they're reading an article from the web, they use Clearly to block out all the nonsense. My Google timer is about to go off. I'm going to go past that one. How many of you use Pinterest? Okay, so most of you probably use it on your phone, but there are times where, so what Pinterest does when you pin something is it looks for media. It looks for pictures, it looks for video, and that's what it attaches its pin to. Some web pages don't have anything to pin to. And so Pinterest, if you go to like pin it, Pinterest will go, sorry. So there's an extension called Pin My Screen, which basically just pins a snapshot of the screen. It sidesteps that part of Pinterest. And I could do a whole session on Pinterest as an educational tool. I mean, that's all. I use Pinterest for that in a bathroom remodel, but that's so all my educational resources, I archive and curate them in Pinterest. It's a great tool. Google Similar Pages. It looks like this little wave thing, and it'll appear up in your Omni Bar when you go to a page that has pages like that. And what that will do is it will take you to pages that are similar to the one you're on. So it's pretty handy that way. I'm flying through the last part here. This one's a great one. It's called the Great Suspender. And what the Great Suspender does is this. If I am not on a tab for a determined amount of time, it will suspend it. It will shut it down. The reason that's a good thing is because every tab you have open is using up a little bit of your processor in your computer. So if you have 40 tabs open and wonder why your computer is going so slowly, that's why. So what the Great Suspender does is automatically just shuts those tabs down if you haven't been on it for 15 minutes. Okay? And so that it's super useful in that it just keeps your computer running. And if you go back to that tab and need it, you just click on it and it opens right back up. And you can also what they call whitelist things. So if you see here, it'll say add play.spotify.com to your whitelist. If you add it to your whitelist, then it will never shut it down. But in this case, like Spotify, it takes a lot of processors. It's like basically a music player in a web page. And so that takes a lot of processor strength and energy. And by by shutting that tab down, it's freed up processor to do other stuff. Okay? Because there'll be times, yeah, you have a bunch of tabs open and your computer's like chugging along, and it's taking forever to open up web pages, all that stuff. That's why. Infinity new tab, that's my tab page. I'm gonna fly through these. Announceify we looked at. Quiet Tube is a cool one in that if you go to YouTube and you show a video, it's got all the YouTube stuff around it. The Quiet Tube extension will just make like a white back. So if you're showing a YouTube video in class and don't want all the stuff around it, okay, it just kind of cleans up that outside stuff and makes it appear on white. And make a GIF, we don't need that one. So there are a ton of extensions out there. And I just hit a very few, the few that I think are extremely impactful for me as a teacher. What I suggest you do if you're interested in finding more is you can always go to the Chrome store and just kind of zip through them. If I click on my hamburger over here and I go down to, it's kind of hidden. I go down to more tools and then I go over to extensions. It'll open up a window in my browser that shows all of my extensions. This is where I trash them if I don't like them. Okay, so like this is one I never use, copy all URLs, so I can just trash it, and it'll say, "Do you want to remove it?" Yes, I do. And it'll clean that up for me. Okay, but this is where all of your extensions live. And if you're looking for cool extensions for educators, just Google that. Google Chrome extensions for teachers. Boom, and there'll be site after site, list after list. Okay, it's a pretty common thing for teachers to make lists of extensions they use and like. So, all right, so here's the deal. I'm going to go to my Google Hangout now, and I'm going to stop this